If you're a PhD student in medieval history, you need a wide variety of skills. One that not many people think of is cartography. Today we are taking a look at maps that I made for research projects since 2012. I'm a complete amateur and all of them are trash, but this is the best you can get without a professional software. I tried to learn ArcGIS on maybe 4 occasions, but every single time, 3 or 4 hours in, I just wanted to grab a baseball bat, smash my laptop into tiny shards and then hang myself. So feel free to call me unprofessional. It happened before and I felt like crap because I'm a historian, not a cartographer, and I actually put my heart and soul into these maps and made the best I could with the tools I had. But on the other hand, I can see how funny it is when you look beyond surface level, and that's what we are going to do today. This is my very first map, Aquitaine at the turn of the first millennium. It looks pretty simple and straightforward, just a couple of rivers and place markers. If you've seen the Atlas de la France de l'an 1000, you might recognize the 2 smaller maps I combined into this one and cleaned up. But what most people don't know is that I did it by manually erasing everything else from 2 scans in Microsoft Paint. If you look at the rivers, you will understand how tedious it was. But as I said, it's simple and straightforward, so I used it as a base map for at least 10 different projects, even as late as last year. You can actually find it in print too, both in my first MA thesis and in the introduction to my translation of the convent home. When I started working on my first bigger project on Provence, I needed a map. By then I already had Photoshop, but I couldn't use Atlas de la France de l'an 1000 as a base map because it was too simple. So I had to MacGyver my own. I ended up with 4 separate maps of the 4 departments of Provence that I carefully aligned, but it obviously looked like garbage, so I drew contour lines according to the elevation levels on the original maps and colored in the levels. I actually had like 4 or 5 separate color schemes, but I decided for this washed out greyish purple. But then I still had to look up all the tiny obscure villages and locate them on my map, with different dots for different kinds of settlements. Around day 10, I was at the end of my wits. I also made a legend mentioning what kind of possessions Saint Victor had. I think I spent 3 weeks on this map, and when I finally showed it to my advisor, his first question was, "Okay, but where are the diocese borders?" I wanted to scream, not necessarily at him, but in general. I had my comprehensive exam in 2020 during lockdown, and I submitted a chapter on the situation in Eastern Provence, for which I needed a brand new map. So I did basically the same as in the previous case, but I also introduced the grid. The next map was a smaller project for a workshop presentation. The only noteworthy thing about it is that I made 3 different color schemes, all based on LGBTQ flags. It was during campaign season and those were horrible times for the community, so it was kind of an act of resistance. I eventually went with the trans flag. I decided to up my game for my next project, a paper on a 10th century incident in Lacadière and the later history of the village, or 2 villages to be exact. It's one of those cases where the properties limits are clearly stated in several documents. But here's the catch. Some of the landmarks are hard or even impossible to identify, even based on the Cassini map and the late medieval descriptions. It took me months to get all the information for this map. And since precision is essential in this case, I exclusively use GeoPortal. You can put down your own markers and draw lines that you can then export in several different formats. But for some reason, exporting the whole thing, the map and the markers, didn't work out as planned, so I just screenshotted the map with and without the markers, aligned the 2 in Photoshop, and put the dots I exported separately where the markers were. Then I also added the rivers and borders that I also downloaded separately. I put some filters on top to improve the aesthetic, and I was done in every sense of the word. I strongly suspect that I will end up commissioning someone for the big final map for my dissertation, because it would be too time-consuming for me to make, and the Lacadière map still doesn't look professional enough. I hope you like the maps. Tell me in the comments which one is your favorite. See you tomorrow.